Monday, Flosstube. It is Monday, January 27th, and my name is Caroline. This is a channel mostly about cross stitch, and welcome back. If you're coming back for a visit, or if you're brand new, thanks for stopping by. I'm in my kitchen again today. I don't normally record regular Monday Flosstube videos in here. I did in December for the many of the Flossmas videos that I did, but my sewing area is full of stuff today, so I thought I would just come in here so that I had a little bit more room to spread a few things out. One of the questions I get asked the most from this view is about this picture right here. It is not a painting. It is actually, in fact, a cross stitch. That is Dimensions kit, and I believe it was called A Wintry's Eve. That's testing my memory. Wintry Eve or A Wintry's Eve. Back and forth as to whether or not it's out of print. I know it can be tricky to find. I know I've heard of people finding it on eBay before. I think there's a someone found it on Alibaba, but it wasn't a legitimate copy. So if you're finding it online, make sure you're checking your source and that it's actually what it says that it is. I guess the adage, buyer beware. So again, it is a Dimensions cross stitch kit. I used the kit. I used everything that it was called for. I used the fabric that came in the kit. I used all of the thread that came in the kit, and it took me a really long time. So has the place of honor above my coffee machine, and I look at it every day, several times a day. So I also wanted to offer my condolences today to all of you who were friends with Leanne of the podcast Lost in Floss. I understand that Leanne lost her battle with breast cancer this past weekend, and she was an integral member of this online community, and I know many of you were very good friends with her, and so I'm really sorry that that you've lost a friend. I never knew Leanne personally. I of course watched a few episodes of Lost in Floss. It was a very enjoyable podcast, and I think what was really clear was the friendship between Leanne and Barb. And Barb, I'm really truly sorry for the loss of your dear friend. So it's never easy, is it? So I have a few things to share with you today. I don't have nearly as many, I think, as I normally have, so it may be a shorter episode today. We shall see. As usual, I will start out with the Because Monday chart giveaway. This happens over on the Facebook group, Friday Off the Grid, and you can find you'll find the photo for the chart of the week giveaway on that group. Just have to leave me a comment and you're entered. The chart from last week was from Shepherd's Bush, and it was this really sweet Easter pattern, hide and seek. And every time I look at this, and I mentioned this last week, it looks so simple and small and tiny and cute, and you think, oh, I could finish that in no time. I really hope that's focused. Yeah, I think so. But I'm looking at the pattern, I'm thinking, that's one of those deceptive patterns that takes you twice as long as you think it's going to take. But it is lovely. Again, I mentioned last week, this chart is not coming with the button. I had 97 comments on this chart last week, and the random number generator chose comment number 47, which was the comment left by Kay Lowry. So congratulations, Kay. You're the winner of this chart, and if you message me your address, I will get it out in the mail to you soon. And thank you. I have a bit of a different giveaway, a different chart today, different than my usual style of giveaway. You have to remember, I have a stack of all kinds of stuff to give away, and it's going to run the gamut of, you know, sampler-esque, primitive, modern. It's a grab bag of stuff. You never know what you're going to get. So I have a John Clayton pattern to give away this week. and it is from the Elegance Miniatures series. It is, what does it say here? Oh no, it's got a big Zweigart label on the front of it, but I don't think it's, who publishes it? Heritage Crafts. Okay, so this is Sophia. So this is the chart for giveaway this week. Now these charts are not cheap. Now I did not pay this amount. I received this in a lot of patterns, like a lot. There were a lot, and it was a lot of patterns from my local needlework shop when they closed down, and their sales price on this was $22.50. So I gather that this is a little bit of a treasure. So I hope fervently that this will go to someone who's really going to appreciate it and love stitching her. She's a beauty. So that's Sophia. And just a side note about this particular giveaway, I'm going to be removing this hanger from the top. I am not going to be putting that in the post because that's just going to cause all kinds of problems. So I'm just going to remove that top. So the top of this plastic will be open. Sometimes if the pattern won't quite fit in an envelope I've got, I have on occasion taken it out of the plastic casing to send, only because sometimes that saves me a couple of dollars in postage doing it that way. I'm always upfront if the chart is new or if it's, you know, gently used. I'd say 90% of the charts that are given away are brand new. So this is brand new, but I will be removing the hanger. So again, you can find the entry for that over on the Facebook group. Friday off the grid. Show and tell. Show and tell. I have a mini finish today. I know. I can hardly believe it myself. So this past weekend was the 6th 24 Hours of Cross Stitch event hosted by Jen Lee of Quirks and Stitches. I just watched her update video this morning featuring Jen's mom, Cindy, and it was a riot. Those girls clearly, you know, I talked about Leanne and Barb's friendship, and Jen and her mom, Cindy, when you watch their relationship, it's a lovely thing to watch, and they clearly had a blast. So it was really fun. And I participated this weekend. I knew going into it that I wasn't going to be able to do 24 hours consecutively, because I think the only way that's ever going to happen is if I'm by myself. No family, nothing else going on, just me, myself, and I, home alone. And the only I would just have to take care of Luna. That's it. Other than that, there's just so many things going on, you know, when you've got a busy family, and you just have to, you know, I just fit it in where I could. And for me, it was still very much a success because the focus was on getting that time in. And instead of worrying about getting the full 24 hours, I simply focused on my countdown for my piece, continuing on the 24-hour rotation of each of my pieces. And I had a general idea of, I want to fit the, you know, I'm stitching throughout the weekend, so I participated no matter how much time I got. So because I didn't do a perfect 24-hour, you know, hours of cross stitch, I still feel for me that it was a fun thing to do, and I will definitely do it again. So I only worked on one piece. You probably know what it is. It is Amtrak by Sampler Cove. Make sure I get this. This is the orientation that I am stitching it in, right there. And it is stunningly gorgeous. I love it so much. I completed 9 hours and 45 minutes of solid stitching time. I would turn the timer off if I was on social media, which this weekend was a lot. Let me tell you, way too much social media, but it was so fun. It's so hard to not, because it's so fun. And then you think, well, it's all stitchy and I'm having a great time. And so, you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. If I'm on social media and I'm having a good time, When you're not having a good time on social media, that's when it's like, okay, put the phone down. However, I'm in some pretty positive groups, and it's, you know, it's fun. So there you go. Are you ready? Okay. Oh, wait, I've got this upside down because I am stitching this bottom up. Okay, so 9 hours and 45 minutes of stitching. Oh, what I'm gonna do before I show you is I'm gonna put in a quick photo right here of what it looked like before I started my my 24 hours of cross stitch. So that would have been what it looked like at the end of Friday's video with the Stitch With Me video. So that'll be right here. And ta-da! Mini finish! I totally finished that next border completely finished. And I am so happy with how beautiful this, I mean, it's just stunning. I love it so much. So much. I did, you know, if I had a little bit of thread left, I came over here and I finished these little finials that are on this upside down heart. I finished this little thing here. I finished the blue one there and a little bit more on here. But the bulk of my work, as you can tell, was this block right here. So done, all done. So I'm gonna give you a close up there and hopefully you can see it because I can't see it at all. I can just see vaguely through the fabric, but not really well. So hopefully it's focused and you can see it. So when you can see it next to my face, you can see that it's really not that huge. It's actually quite tiny, believe it or not. It's a huge design, but I am stitching this 1 thread over 1 on a 25 count even weave. So the stitches are very small. So if you were to do this on a 28 or a 32 count, you would want to use 2 threads over 2. Well, at least I would. Some people on 32 count will use 1 thread, but it's personal preference. It would be a lot bigger, and of course the stitch count and all of that can be found on the pattern. So this is a piece by Sampler Cove and it's called Amtrak. Now someone had asked me if I knew the heritage of the name of the piece, and I know for a fact that it is on the pattern itself, but I no longer have that page. I think that was the one page in the great wine spillage of, you know, 2013 when I originally spilled my wine all over the pattern. That was the one page that was unsalvageable, and I think I tossed it. It had the story of why it's called Amtrak, and it has something to do with the designer's friends. I think it's either a combination of their names or something like that. I don't really remember the story, but I know it's obviously it's not because of the train. It's a different reason. So Amtrak by Sampler Cove, and Claire from Celtic Hobbies left me a comment last week. First of all, to let me know that both Sevan and Arjesh are back in stock, and also Claire carries the Sampler Cove patterns, which I didn't know. Now, as of last Friday, she had 5 copies of Amtrak in stock. I mentioned it over in the Facebook group, so I'm not sure. She might be sold out already, but she has a lot of the other Sampler Cove patterns. So if you remember, I've been working on Dido. When did I last work on Dido? January of last year, I think. I should really get that out again soon. It's so beautiful. And I could totally finish it this year with a 24-hour rotation. It would probably take 2 rotations, but I bet you I could finish it. And it's so beautiful. So she carries, you know, the Sampler Cove patterns. So if you like this style, if you are really drawn to this sort of design, I suspect you would like to take a little gamble over there and have a looky-loo. So again, that's www.celtichobbies.com. Claire does not pay me to advertise for her, just to be clear. She donates $1 of every Sevan pattern sales to Muscular Dystrophy Canada as a way to, she says thank you to me by doing that, which I think is amazing, and I love that. So also Claire is generally, she generally leaves a comment in the drop down box, not in the drop down box below, she leaves a comment below. Last week I forgot to pin it to the top, but I will try to, if she has some information about these charts or if they're out of stock or coming back into stock, I'll try to pin it to the top of the comment list, so if you're wondering, you can find it. But also, if it's out of stock, just message her and tell her that you're interested in a copy, and then she'll know, you know, she'll have an idea of how many more to order in. So before this, the only other place I could think, the only other place I saw that sold these was European Cross Stitch.com.co.uk. I'm not sure. I've never ordered anything from them, so I don't really know the. Oh, that's interesting. It's starting to, I have to re-tack this down. It's coming off my scroll rod there, which I didn't notice. Sometimes I tend to really crank the tension on my scroll rod. That's another thing I get asked all the time. What floor frame do I use? And the information is in the drop down box below on every video that I put out, because again, it's the #1 question that I get asked. The floor frame that I choose to use, that I've been using probably for, I'm going to say 10 years, but it's most likely been way longer than that. It's a Hearthside Craftworks Mark II floor frame. And it is, Hearthside Craftworks is a small family-owned business in Calgary, Alberta. They have no idea who I am. Literally, I could be Paul next door. They don't know who I am. So legitimately, it is probably my favorite frame that I've ever bought and ever used. It is not inexpensive, but it is handmade. Each one is individually handcrafted, solid oak. The flipping mechanism on the, it's been a while since I really talked about all the details of it. Episode 55, you can go back and you can actually watch me demonstrate a few of the features on it. But my favorite feature of it is the fact that your scroll rods, it's like a seamless flipping motion from back to front, because I do flip my project over to start and stop my threads, and it's brilliant. I love it. I love it. I use it every day, and I've used it every day pretty much. I mean, I've had a few knitting phases where I did nothing but knit, so I probably didn't use it those days. But when I'm stitching, because I love my big projects, it's my favorite frame. And I have Kay's Creations, which I like. I like them a lot. I have a Lowry frame, which I like a lot. But the Hearthside Craftworks is my favorite. And I have almost talked myself into ordering one of their tabletop frames. I'm almost there. I'm getting there. Maybe for my birthday. I said that last year too, and I didn't, but I think this is the year. I think I'm gonna do it this year. Okay, next, and probably last today. Oh no, I didn't. So I worked for 9 hours and 45 minutes stitching time. I did a little bit, no I didn't. So I have, how much time do I have? I think I have about 7 hours of time left of stitching time on my Amtrak before I move on to my next rotation. So I am going to be working through that 7 hours over the next week. I have a very busy full week ahead of me, which so many fun things going on this week, but it's a full week. On Friday night, I'm going to see Ellen on stage. You know, in her other alternate life as a member of the Crash Test Dummies, I'm going to the concert on Friday night. So I actually get to meet Ellen in real life, and I'm really excited about that. It's gonna be a great concert. So I'm going with a few friends. I know I'm going with my friend Dawn, and I'm hoping my friend Virtuti is going to come as well, and also Joanne C. I am pretty sure, depending on the weather, because she's coming from a little further away, but I'm hoping that the four of us will get to hang out together and enjoy a really fun evening with watching Ellen up on stage in her natural habitat. So I'm excited about that. It's gonna be fun. And I have a lot of work going on this week. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. So after I finished my 7 hours, I showed you this last week, but just, you know, not everybody watches every week, and this motivates me. So my next 24-hour rotation, I'm gonna take a little break from the big projects, and I'm gonna work on at least one small, and I'm never gonna finish this in the 24-hour rotation. Who am I kidding? So this is what I'm gonna be working on. And if I finish this, miracle of miracles, then I have the Mill Hill bead kit that I showed last week. It was the screen cap from last week, the egg with the sheep in it. And it's so cute. But this one I want to finish first. This is a Mill Hill buttons and beads, holiday delivery. There we go. And it is so sweet. And I have done most of the boring bit, most of the white and the cream. You can see there. I'm not gonna, there we go. So I get to start adding in some red soon, which is just gonna make it come to life, and I'm excited about that. And then there's gonna be a whole pile of beads. Oh, and the trees. Those trees look like fun, actually. Okay, so my next 24-hour rotation, that's this little guy right here. So, oh, and many of you thought my beer card floss tags were quite fun. In fact, I think it was Jenny, Long Dog Stitcher, hi Jenny, who said, you know, I should market them. Beer case floss tags, floss cards. So I got a good giggle out of that. Anyway, okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about was the tapestries that I received from Glenda that I showed last week. And let me just refresh your memory. One of them was completely finished, one of them was partially finished, and then the other 3 canvases had the center motif worked, and then the rest is the fill-in is left to do. And oh, it's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Okay, so before I say this next bit, I just want to preface this by saying in no way at all was I even remotely offended, or no one left me anything negative or nasty or unkind at all. Point blank. To me, it was actually quite a wonderful discussion that happened in the comments last week about these tapestries. Okay, so I've made it clear, not in any way at all was I offended. So many people wrote to me to tell me that in actual fact, these pieces, what they were known as, what they were called, and you can find them on eBay, is they were called pre-worked canvases, okay? And so actually, you would purchase these with the centers already stitched, which I had no idea. And so many of you had actually wonderful stories and memories of either you know, a relative or your mother purchasing these and enjoying the fill-in. And maybe this is just me, but I kind of felt like, and this is why I preface this by saying I wasn't offended, because it's kind of a funny feeling, but when there was so many comments, and it almost felt like there was this overwhelming feeling of that they weren't as special as I thought they were because they were pre-worked, or those just came like that and the person, you just had to fill them in. You didn't, you know, have to do the middle part. So those are easy. They were dead easy, and they were kind of a cheating way to get your cross stitch. I'm saying this really badly. I'm saying this really badly. So that could have just been how I sort of read the tone generally of all of the comments about these tapestries that, well, they were pre-worked. That's how you bought them. And, you know, so it's not, you're not finishing the work of a stitcher. And that, I don't think that was ever really said, but that was kind of the implication. And I just wanted to, I have to tell you that for me, it kind of had the opposite effect, because to me, it just kind of deepens the story. Because these were not, I mean, yes, we can call them pre-worked and we can call them pre-stitched, but I'm sorry, a real stitcher did that. It just changed who the stitcher was. So it adds a whole layer of depth to these canvases that, to me, the way that I look at this, all of a sudden I think, you know, there's a whole master's thesis right here. Like, truly, right? Who was the Taiwanese stitcher that did this? You know, what were the social implications of the work that they were doing? How much were they paid? Were they able to support their family by doing this work? Because they probably weren't paid very much. Because this was not done by a machine. No matter what we call it, pre-worked, pre-stitched, it's stitched in hand by a crafter. Man, woman, I don't know, but all you have to do is look at the back to know. I hope that's gonna, let me just get that a little bit more there. Look at the back. That's pretty neat and tidy for a back of a canvas, but it's definitely, absolutely 100% stitched in hand by a human. A person made this. And so I might not be completing the work of the stitcher who these were purchased from, but I am completing the work of a stitcher. And, you know, it makes me think about these pieces in an entirely new light. And I'm not joking when I say master's thesis, because you start thinking, you know, it's just so interesting to me. I'm fascinated by it because they're all different. It's not, I mean, these came in a, there were 6 in the set. They're all different. All of these floral motifs in the middle are different. So I start to think about the conditions they were, you know, were they able to do it at home like piecework? Did they have to go to a place where they had to leave their work at night when they went home at night? I don't know, but I'm fascinated by it. And if anything, it's made them even more meaningful to me. So, treasure, and I look forward to finishing them and hanging them on my wall. So, I still have to order my wool. I know exactly where I'm getting it from. I know my color that I'm getting, and I'll be doing that later this week. So I hope you took that the way that I intended it, because I loved your comments. I loved every single one of them. I might not have hit the heart button because I'm terrible at, you know, the YouTube comments. I try to keep up with everything else, but YouTube comments, I read them all. But answering them it's just, I don't know. I feel like I have a conversation with you in my head, and I just never, I don't have time to write it all down. And it's a shame, because there's some really interesting stuff that happens in the comment field below. Y'all are very smart. Oh, that reminds me, those of you who know more information about these tapestries, I did have a question for you. I showed you last week that one of them was crooked, right? The tension on it was crooked. And I had some people say that's because you have to wet block them and then stretch them on a wooden frame, stretch them back into shape, and let them dry that way. And makes total sense. I get that. But I had one person say you can't stitch them side to side because it will distort and then you can't wet block it. However, my question to you is, why can't I? Because my other tapestries I have stitched side to side. My gigantic peacock orange tree, I stitched that side to side. I stitched my my other canvases, the Beth Russell other tapestry canvases, those are being stitched side to side. And as long as I have it stretched on a frame while I'm stitching and my tension is fairly even, why can't I do that? I'm thinking that it should be fine and that it won't be distorted. My tension is generally pretty good. So that's just my question to you. Why can't I stitch it side to side? Do you have to stitch it on a diagonal? Because I understand the stitcher who had them before, the one that's half done, she was stitching hers, and the one that's distorted, she stitched on a diagonal. But why can't I stitch side to side? As long as it's neat and tidy and the stitches look even. Anyways, if you have some thoughts, leave me comments below, because I'm interested in that discussion. And before I make any decisions on how I'm going to stitch this, because I'm assuming stitching on the diagonal, you just stitch it in hand, and that's why it gets distorted, hence the wet blocking, wooden frame, etc. However, with my other tapestry that I did, I didn't have to wet block it. It just came off the frame straight. So, do you think I'd be okay? Do you think I'd be okay to stitch this one straight? Because the canvas looks, I mean, it's the canvas, it was a Penelope canvas that I used for my orange tree, and this looks pretty similar. This looks pretty similar. I'm not sure that's gonna focus, but you can see it in the corner there. There we go. That looks like pretty similar canvas. I think I'd be okay. Anyways, I'm tempted to stitch it side to side, but I would love to hear arguments for the other way of doing it. So, very interesting stuff. Just really fascinating stuff. I wish I could go back and do a degree in fine arts with a focus on needlepoint, embroidery, tapestries, cross stitch, you name it. I think that would just be wonderful. Really, really wonderful. And you know, I'm sure I could. I'm sure I could still do that as a mature student, but I have too many other things to do now. Too many whips in the pile, and not enough time to do the things I do have already. So, but if I had to do it over again, it'd be interesting. All right, so that's all of the stuff that I had to share and show today. Shop update. I'm starting to get a little low on the budgie fabric. I am going to go back and get 2 more meters this week, and then that will be it for the budgie print. So what's in the shop now is what I have. I am still making a few wedge totes and the large size wedge totes, because we are recording a Fiber Friends podcast on Friday, and so those are generally geared more towards knitters, though as a cross stitcher I love them for various different things. Like if I'm doing those sets of charts, you know, like 12 charts for one pattern, it's a nice place to keep with the wedged bottom. You can stick them all in there and have your Q-snap and your floss box and all of that good stuff. Even with just one whip, sometimes the smaller wedge bottom is a nice option. So there will be some budgie bags in the wedge style, hopefully coming out by Friday. Now, as for Friday, I will not be able to do a Stitch With Me video this week, which is disappointing. However, on Saturday, I will be releasing a collection of bags in collaboration with a pattern by Michelle Garrett. And I'm working really hard this week at getting the sample bags ready for that collection. It is a collection. I have 4 different fabrics that will be making up a variety of bags, and so I'm working pretty hard on getting those samples done. I mentioned last week there will be a grime guard. And that grime guard is going to be an option. It's not going to be a mandatory part of the kit because not everybody uses grime guards. So if you really love the bag, you shouldn't have to also purchase the grime guard. So the grime guard will be an add-on to the kit, but it will be on offer. And the grime guard actually will match all 4 of the different fabrics for the bags. So I'm pretty excited about that, but I still have a lot of work to do on that. And I also have some orders in the shop that I need to get out in the next few days so that those are on their way to their new home, ready to be filled with good stuff. So there are still some budget bags in the shop. There are still some stash squirrel bags in the shop, and the few other prints that I have in there already as well. So that's it for me today. Feels like an awfully short episode today. I have been having some lengthy Monday floss tubes lately, so this one I think will be refreshingly short for those of you who prefer a shorter episode. Can never guarantee what you're going to get around here. Sometimes it's going to be super chatty and super long, and sometimes I just won't have as much. So again, I won't see you on Friday, but I will see you on Saturday because I am going to put out a short video with the launch of those bags. And I'll also be posting some information on the Instagram page, and you can find that at Evertotes. And all the information is in the drop down box below. So it's kind of exciting. So that's it for me today, for sure this time. And I'll see you on Saturday. Take care and happy stitching.